boy, oh boy, oh boy. Here we are for a rather interesting episode of Death Taxes and Sports Podcast, episode 153. I'm here with my esteemed Johnson Wills alum, Mr. Ben Stats Holloway. Sir, how are you doing? How you feeling? What a what
Doing
a
good,
range of
man.
emotions we have on
Doing
this.
good. Another opportunity to talk sports. Gotta love it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And we said that we were going to be back in 2 weeks, but with all things considered, we had to come and talk about what a wacky, odd, just moment in sports. And we're saying before we started was that this NBA postseason, this NBA feel has been a little bit different. I haven't had necessarily the feel of nostalgia per se, but just confusion, the number of injuries, just so much is happening. But let's get to it, sir. We got to go. Jason Tatum injury. This has so this. I don't think that one Achilles could change the landscape of one franchise, but considering that they're going to be the most expensive starting five of over $500 million, new
Mhm.
ownership coming in, all the money that was put in, the age, the injury risk of some of these guys. Your thoughts, man?
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. I mean, to your point, they're paying guys a lot of money, a lot of money. I mean, I'm just looking at it right now that the total value of their 313 and 285. That's Tatum and Jalen Brown. So that's basically 600,000 right there, close to it. Then Holiday 130, Derek White 118, Porzingis 60 million. Like, I mean, I stopped counting because the numbers just got crazy. like, the numbers just insane. And it's like the other elephant in the room, I guess, is the Celtics have new ownership or going to have new ownership. And what does that mean as far as, what does the new ownership pay more attention to the second apron and how much luxury tax and all of that compared to, previous owner who, let's be honest, he did not have to go all in on all these guys and give all these guys all this money. And he said, you know what? We got a great team. We got a chance to go on a run. I'm paying my dudes and we're running it back. And that's what they did. Who's to say that this new ownership group will have the same mentality, the same goal, the same? I mean, we don't know. It's an unknown. And, you got a bunch of expensive contracts. And, you know, regardless if they won, if they won the championship again, there were still going to be changes. That we're not going to be able to run it back 3 years
It would have
straight.
been more worth it.
Exactly correct, but you wouldn't have been able to run it back with the same exact team 3 years in a row. I mean, they literally year to year have like the same exact roster, pretty much. It's insane. You don't really see that in professional sports, really in any sport. Even if they won it all, like you said, would have been more worth it. Yes, their team still would have been a little bit different next year. Now, given that Tatum, we'll call it the earliest he'll be back is probably March. I don't
He's out for the year, man.
January, February. That doesn't make any sense.
He's out.
March would be the earliest he could come back, I would say. And to your point, given his age, given his contract, they might be like, listen, we're just sitting you. We're not playing you. But I'm gonna go with March as the earliest that he would come back. That's 10 months. But his injury, man, it's you know we saw as soon as you see a replay now, thanks to, and it's a little bit sarcastic, but more so because of the Aaron Rodgers injury, we know exactly what an Achilles tear looks like now. Like Kobe tore his Achilles, but like the replays and like it wasn't as obvious. It just wasn't. And then there wasn't really a big name after Kobe to tear his Achilles till Aaron Rodgers. And now we see one replay of that calf, vibrating basically. That's it. We know exactly what it looks like. There's no surprise. That's why we knew Damian Lillard tore his Achilles. We knew last night when we saw the replay, Tatum did. It's and the other part is interesting is there seems to be a little bit of an uptick in these Achilles injuries. And I don't necessarily know why or if there is a logical explanation or even scientific reason, but it does seem to be that the Achilles tears were very uncommon and they're kind of being happening a little bit more often. But yeah, unfortunate, for Tatum, especially. In my opinion, he was going to drop 50. He had 42 at the time. There's a decent chance that game went into overtime, but even if it didn't, I think he was going to drop a 50 burger and, would have been one of the most iconic games in, at MSG in playoff history. I mean, I know it's the second round, but like to drop 50 to potentially tie the series at 2, like that would have been a game that would have been remembered for a long time. And the injury happens, and I know I've been long-winded here. I'll leave you with this. Talked about it. We talked about it a little bit before, but who's to say if the Celtics weren't playing better in the second half? Let's say there's 3.5 minutes left. They have a 10-point lead or a 12-point lead. Tatum is probably not making that extra effort to get that ball. He's probably conceding that, layup, dunk, fast break, whatever you want to say, knowing we're still up 8 points or we're still up 10 points. So, it's, we're always going to be in this what if world. There will always be what ifs, but I think the Celtics as a whole bear at least a little bit of responsibility for not playing well in the second half last night.
Yeah. It's sports, sports is like it is almost like a continuous beautiful swan song in the sense of we see this happen over the decades and decades of the greatest athletes, the greatest sporting figures, Kobe Bryant, Klay Thompson going through these type of injuries. It just almost makes what LeBron has done even that much more impressive because he's never had any type of a severe injury. The good side of it is that it's happening on the right side of his career, where even if he misses, he'll miss his age 27 season. So you would assume that based on, you look at Kevin Durant, you look at some of these other guys, the way that, modern medicine is, it's not necessarily like a career ender. I still think that because of his jump shooting ability, I think he can still be a very good player. But again, players respond to injuries a lot differently. So it's hard to say person by looking at the overall comparison. But what I will say is that there are different levels of failures when it comes to teams and how they assemble talent. The Suns 4 years ago, not making the finals or not winning a finals was a failure. This team with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, it is an absolute failure if they do not win at least 2 championships within a 7-year period. It doesn't have to be back-to-back, right? Because you consider how close this team has been. In 2022, they were up 2-0 against Golden State. 2023, they came back 3-0 against Miami, lost game 4, didn't make it. 2024, I feel like, yes, they won that, but I feel like if the Denver Nuggets had made it to the finals, they probably wouldn't have won that one, in my opinion. So them just winning just one championship to me is a failure. And I think for a guy like Jason Tatum, who doesn't have a regular season MVP, doesn't have a finals MVP, only has one championship, we look at Jason Tatum as the guy who's trying to ascend to be one of the top 25 greatest players of all time. That's what he's shooting for. Jaylen Brown is not. Jaylen Brown's legacy, personally, is cemented forever now because for him, with his type of pedigree and his skill set, winning one championship and winning one finals MVP, I think, is good enough for the narrative that's been created for him. But for Jason Tatum, not so much. And with this roster being the way that it is, Porzingis, they have to decide something with him because he just can't stay healthy. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Drew Holiday, I mean, he's 30, about to be 35. And Al Horford is 38. I mean, good gracious, like Father Time's undefeated for nothing. So I think it'd be an absolute failure. It's unfortunate, but boy, Jaylen Brown is something. I mean, Jalen Brunson is something special.
Yeah, that man don't play. he gets to wherever he wants to get to, whenever he wants to, and we talked about it. But there's absolutely no way that he is. I don't even know what he's listed. Let's say he's listed at 6'2". There's no way. I mean, I use the example of Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson was listed at 5'8". I was next to him in the locker room. He wasn't more than like 5'5". They always do it more so with guards than other positions. I don't believe for a second he's 6'2". I think he's probably closer to 5'11" or 6 feet. But he gets where he wants to get to. I mean, all the defenders he's going against on Boston are like great, like better than good. We're not talking about like
not quick. He's not quick. You know what I'm saying? So like he's going to be he's not very quick, right? Like he just has a very high IQ, and he's going to be an effective point guard for a very long time because of that.
Yeah, there's similarities, although they're much different players. There's similarities between, and this is more so IQ and footwork, and we'll just call it different athleticism, not the typical rebounding, dunking. Between Jokic, Luka, and Brunson, none of them have stand out like this guy is extremely athletic. That they just get to where they're very methodical. They get there, or surgical. You know, I like that word sometimes. But anyways, they get to where they want to get to, and if they're on, there ain't no stopping them from getting to where they want to get to. Like if their destination is, wherever on the court, they're going to get there if they want to when they're on their game. And it's unique, but there are kind of parallels between the three. None of them are athletic in the traditional ways. And all of them, I think the biggest similarity to me would be body control. They know exactly how to manipulate, and create advantages with their bodies to create, advantages on the offensive end with the athleticism and the body types that they have. They're just very creative and can take advantage of just about any defense. Like they're all very, very impressive in their own way.
Agreed. Well, let's get a little bit to these Cavs, shall we? And if we come back to the Celtics, we can. We'll talk about the Knicks and all that. But I kind of want to start this one with the Cavs, if you don't mind, because
have at it.
I think that this is a perfect. Right now they're down 73-68 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the third quarter. And I think they're probably going to lose this game.
Yeah, it actually got a little bit worse. They're up at halftime. They're getting outscored by, right now, minute 28 left in the third, 28-12, Indy in the third quarter.
Okay, you must be ahead of me. Okay,
they're up by 12 right now, 80-68.
Yeah, this
not is looking good. Not looking good.
No, it's not. And they say injuries and all that, but when you're a team that wins 60-something games, I just don't think excuses really matter. This is still professional sports. The expectation's the expectation, and I think that this is another example of why, to me, the regular season almost doesn't matter. Regular season success does not equate to postseason success, because when you have to face a team and you have to beat them 4 out of 7 times, and you've already seen them 4 other times during the regular season, there's only so many things you could do from a schematic perspective to gain the upper hand. At some point, it's about just having that extra grit, that extra dog, and just flat out being better. I do not think the team that has the better record is always going to be the better team if they're a higher seed, because it all depends on matchups.
Yep.
Cleveland is a very slow, methodical, half-court type of offense. Indiana is a very fast-paced team. When your starting lineup has two bigs and Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, they're not necessarily the two fastest cats in the bunch.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep.
So to me, it's just like regular season just really doesn't mean much, honestly. And then to answer the question whether we think that it's going to be a failure if they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it's a failure that you're the 1 seed and you don't make it to the finals, period. I mean, you're the number 1 seed. You have the easiest path, and you don't make it to the finals. I think this was a championship or bust type of season, considering the improvements that everyone has made, how deep this team is, and how much they have improved year over year. So that's just my feeling. I think it's more than just the conference finals. I think it's the NBA finals, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I won't go too crazy, but I got to live up to my nickname of Stats Holloway here. Look at these three so far right now. The three guards for Cleveland, starting guards, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and Max Strus from the field are combined. I think I'll do quick math here. 6 for 35. That's correct. 6 for 35 from the field. And from three, those three players tonight, we're talking about only, of course. Minus, so that's 8, that's 7. 0 for 15 from three. Like, that's your starting backcourt. You're starting in, small forward, guards, whatever. They're all guards. That's just not going to get it done. And the other glaring thing that stands out, and it's only this game we're talking about, to be clear, in this context, stats-wise, the Pacers have 19 assists as a team. The Cavs only have 6. That's a pretty significant difference to me. And it just shows, the Cavs are kind of, hero ball, so to speak. Give it to Donovan Mitchell and let him go to work.
Which he shouldn't be playing, in my opinion.
Yeah, his ankle is pretty bad, I think. Not torn Achilles bad, thankfully, of course, but not good, not in good shape. I get why he's playing, though, season on the line, of course, but I get your point. For me, it kind of goes to this, in my mind, a little bit bigger picture. I think that there are some guys that cannot be number ones on a championship team. Kyrie Irving cannot be the best player on a championship team. Scottie Pippen, to go back in the day, could not have been the best player on a championship team. You're looking at the Celtics right now. Jaylen Brown could not be the best player on a championship team. Those guys are all excellent number 2s, which there's nothing wrong with that. Scottie Pippen's a Hall of Famer. Kyrie Irving, we know how great he is. Like, there's nothing wrong with being a number 2. But there are some dudes that are just number 2s. Donovan Mitchell, to me, because of his shortcomings in defense and because of his height, cannot be your best player on a championship team. I think he'd be an excellent 2. Imagine, he's, in the Kyrie Irving role, with LeBron, or Kyrie with Luka last year. They didn't win, but, Kyrie in the number 2 role is an excellent player. And I just don't see Donovan Mitchell being the best player on a championship team, considering his height and his defensive shortcomings. And to me, to your point about the regular season, I kind of thought, although I would say this Cavs team was probably better than some of the LeBron Cavs teams from his first 10 years, first 8 years, those, if you're being completely honest, as much as, we are LeBron fans, you didn't have expectations they were going to win a championship with the teams that they had. They were the number 1 seed a couple of times, but they were dominant regular season teams that just weren't going to end up winning a championship. This Cavs team, I get the same vibe. I just did not see them winning a championship this year, and their season could be over within the next 30 minutes.
You know who they remind me of? They remind me of that 2015 Atlanta Hawks team that overachieved like well in 160 games, 60-plus games. Remember that team?
Yep.
Kyle Korver, Al Horford.
They're the number one seed.
Yeah. Yeah, and LeBron just kind of came in and just showed them what's up.
Yeah, swept them in 4.
Yeah, pretty much. They remind me of that team, a team of a good, like Donovan Mitchell is a very good player, but he's not a great player. He'll never, in my opinion, be considered like one of the top 75 greatest players of all time. I think he's a guy that we can look back 20, 25 years and we'll be like, oh, remember that guy Donovan Mitchell? And we'll talk about him for like 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next thing, right? He's never going to be, in my opinion, like an all-time like memorable player, because these type of examples are why we never really considered the Cleveland Cavaliers, with him being their best player, as a true title contender.
Yeah,
And I feel
exactly.
like, and I feel like to be a true title contender, you have to have two players that do things very, very, very well. The Nuggets win the championship of 2023, in my opinion. It worked out because Joker's not necessarily a dominating defender, nor is Murray, but when you have other pieces like KCP who could shoot three very well, and then you have athletic wings like Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., that just fit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? So you could get away with that. But this team
Yep.
can't, because they don't have that type of a supporting cast.
Yeah,
so
I'm
for
with you on
them,
that. They seem to just they got a bunch of really, really good players.
Yeah.
Like really good players, but not enough to like make a difference in the playoffs where like, you know, you're going to win a championship.
Yeah.
They don't, you got to have like, I mean, let's be honest. There's no championship team in the 70 plus years of the NBA that didn't have a clear number one of the top 10 players in the league at the time. It's never happened.
And I think in terms of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's literally never happened.
And I think that like what makes, even though if Kawhi Leonard could never play another game again, and will be an all-time great in my opinion, because that Raptors team was severely flawed. That one in 2019.
Oh, absolutely.
Severely flawed.
You win NBA Finals MVP twice, and you take Toronto to the NBA Finals and to NBA championship where they never sniffed before. They never came close to a championship. I'd argue they probably didn't even make a conference finals before that team. I'd have to look it up, but they probably never made a conference finals. And I mean, speaking of what ifs, I really wish he would have stayed. I mean, who knows what would have changed, what would have been different? Would he have still gotten hurt? Probably, but like to me, like he was in the perfect scenario where like you were gonna be treated like a king in that city for eternity. I don't know. To me,
he still will be. He delivered them their only championship. You know
absolutely,
what I
but
mean?
it's just, I mean, maybe that's a little nostalgia, but I kind of wish that were the case. But that's besides the point. To your point, Kawhi retires today as a Hall of Famer, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. It's like, but his injuries. But I'm like, dog, like you're a two-time champion, and on top of that, you're a two-time Finals MVP. Regular season MVPs are great, but legends are born in championships.
Absolutely.
So
no doubt.
But anyway, Cavs, they're just. I tell you what, though, if I was a free agent, I would go to that team. If I was like if I was looking at a team that could win it, if I was like just a dude that I know that I could carry a team, with Donovan Mitchell as your number two, and with that type of team, absolutely, but not as currently constructed. But anyway, so let's get on to this next thing. I want to throw this one to you. So what do you think, which team has the better or more likely chance to win a championship? Timberwolves or Pacers? This one's fun.
Yeah, this is a good one. And I, to be fair, the answer is always going to be, when we're talking about a championship or getting to a championship, your path matters. And sometimes paths are easier than others. That doesn't diminish a championship. If you win a championship, to be frank, doesn't matter how you got there, doesn't matter who was injured, like you won a championship, you're never going to not be a champion. You won a championship. But for me, I mean, the Pacers are more likely just because of the path. I mean, I think the Timberwolves, first of all, the Timberwolves aren't going to have, neither will the Pacers, of course, but Timberwolves won't have home court in the conference finals, neither will the Pacers. But the Timberwolves are going against either a 68-win team with the number one with the who's going to be named the MVP within the next week or so, probably 68 win team, or the Nuggets, who have won a championship literally 2 years ago. That's who the Timberwolves would have to go through. Those are two excellent teams. And as great as the Knicks have played, we expect, of course, the Knicks are going to win the series, and with the Tatum injury, of course. As great as the Knicks have played, they got some flaws, and the Pacers beat them. Now, granted, did the Knicks get injured last year? OG and Brunson, yes, but the Pacers have the experience of beating them in the playoffs, and frankly, the Pacers are kind of going to be on, to me, like a little bit of a high as far as confidence goes. You get through the Bucks with obviously Giannis, who I get it, Dame missed some time and then obviously got hurt, but you go through the Bucks and then you go through the Cavs, you're kind of like, as long as you're not satisfied and you're still hungry, your confidence is pretty high. You think at that point, you go through those two teams, you can beat anybody. And I think, let's be honest, athletes are human beings, right? Halliburton is fully aware that he was voted most overrated. If you don't think that's motivating him right now, you don't know what you're talking about. So, I think that their path is a little bit easier, and I think that just the confidence level that they would have. Not that Minnesota wouldn't have the confidence, but going against one of those two teams in the West, I would favor either of those two over Minnesota. Pacers Knicks is it's
It's
a
the
toss.
90s feels again.
It's a yeah, exactly, 90s
It's the
vibes.
90s vibes, man.
It's a they better have Reggie Miller calling those games. You got to be having Reggie Miller call those games. If not, that's a wasted opportunity right there. That's perfect marketing right there. Come on.
Oh, dude.
But I think just because of the path, the Pacers Knicks would also be. If we're looking at Vegas odds, if these are the matchups, like that series will be very, very close. Knicks would probably be favored, but not by much. So the answer for me is the Pacers on this one.
I think the Pacers have just enough size to be able to contend with anybody in the West. Because you look at the teams that are still playing now. Hold up, everybody, hold up. Everybody, a legend has just joined us today. Gary, the legend Johnson himself. Sir,
what's up Gary?
Yeah, better late than never, but I'm doing all right.
How are you? How are you doing? How are you processing all of everything that has happened in the sports world these last 24 to 48 hours?
Kind of if we're talking about the Tatum injury, I'm looking at it from multiple sides. From the Boston side, this is as devastating as it gets. Because not only does this, let's face it, even if they do get by the Knicks, I don't see them going much further. I think, the teams in the West are markedly better than they are, at least at this point, because of all the other injuries that have been going on. So, it's bad because there goes their championship reign, and it further adds to this weird stigma that since the '60s they've never repeated as a champion. So it's weird that's kind of we're staring down that reality yet again. But you also have to look at the long term. You have to look at 25, 26 and go like, with all the decisions that they're going to have to make. I don't say the window is closed, but I think the window is shut, but the lock's not on it yet. I think it's gonna take some retooling, and they're kind of just gonna have to tread water and kind of hope for the best going forward. And as far as with Tatum goes, with these athletes of today, they tend to bounce back pretty well from these catastrophic injuries, oddly enough. So I don't think for his career that it's going to be as damning. He may not be the exact same player when he comes back, but I think his style of game kind of ages well. So I think for them, there is a bright side, and as we've read and seen thus far that the surgery was a success. So we can kind of forget about 25, 26, but 26, 27, I think they'll be back in the thick of things. If you're the Knicks, Last season you were the victim. This season you are the benefactor. You
Mhm.
know,
With the
last year
injury. Yep.
you had all the injuries and you broke down at the end there, and you know the Brunson injury was a death knell last year. This year you're reaping the benefit of it, and you've got 3 attempts to win one game to knock off a 60-win team that everybody, and I mean everybody, myself included, said was going to beat them in these playoffs. It was almost a foregone conclusion once the season started. Like, hey, the top teams will be Boston and New York, and once those two meet at some point, Boston's just going to be better. But you know, unfortunately for Boston, this is just the cruel twist of fate.
Yeah, it's crazy
As
to think that the Celtics beat the Knicks 4 times in the regular season and are now staring at the possibility of losing 4 times in 5 games.
I mean, I
So,
think that we have recent. I mean, I think that there's enough recent. I think there's enough recent examples, things that I can't think off the top of my head, where like we have seen this, and like it's surprising, but it's also not surprising because New York, their starting five matches up very, very well with Boston's starting five, just from an athletic and length perspective, right? Like Karl Anthony Towns, dude whose name I can never pronounce, Brunson. I mean, that's Ananobi.
Anunoby, yeah.
Ananobi. There, I got it. Ananobi, Mikal Bridges, like Hart. Like that's a really good starting five right there.
Yep.
Athletic, you know, can shoot the three. Mikal Bridges has experience. Brunson has experience now. Cat has had a litany of experience. I mean, this is a team that has played in some pretty high, intense, high important games. And Tibbs has been around the block for a very long time. So it's like, in one instance, it's surprising, but it's not. And then when was the last team that it went back to back? It's been 8 years. So teams don't really go back to back in the NBA like that anymore. Like with free agency and the way things are, like it's not a
Parody
surprise.
is real.
You
I
know,
was saying the parody is real at this
it
point.
is. It is. So
And I
it's
think, I
just,
mean, just to that point, Jeff, I think, you know, that's good for basketball. I don't mind, you know, it's good to have dynasties. It's nice to see a back-to-back champion, but you know, to have such diversity, we haven't seen this since what, the 70s, where we're looking at the possibility of a seventh straight year of a different champion. That hasn't been done in 50 years. Like that's an interesting,
Yeah.
you know, little thing to happen.
yeah. And so, you know, I mean, we'll see. I think, you know, for Tatum, I feel like in today's NBA, you got to get at least one. Because I don't think that we are going to see the next level of transcendent all-time greats been from like a Steph Curry or like a LeBron probably for a very long time. So if you can get that one, then you're good. Do we want to get to OKC? Can we just talk about Dallas real quick, please? Them getting
Please.
the small pick.
Let's have at it with Dallas. Let's have
Yeah,
at it.
yeah. Gary, I want to throw it to you real quick, and then Ben, have at it. 3 words to describe. I like to give you 3 words. I'll give you up to 5. 5 words to describe the Dallas Mavericks with a 1.8% chance of getting the top overall pick, which I think is rigged personally, at getting the number and getting Cooper Flag. 5 words.
The basketball gods like them. Because I mean, I'll put it this way. I'm happy for Mavs fans. You know, Ben, you posted that earlier. Like, I'm happy for their fans. That's it. Nico Collins does not. Harrison, Nico Collins, Nico Harrison, and Nico Collins doesn't deserve any draft picks either. No, Nico Harrison. All this, he's bought himself at least 2 or 3 more years. Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are looking at him and going, "There before the grace of God go I." Like that's what's happening right now. Like they're between the Kyrie injury, which is going to take them out. You know, he's going to be gone for a year. You're getting Cooper Flag. You get the number. Like you've bought yourself a couple more years in this position at a time which, frankly, I don't think anybody would say that they deserve it. But for Dallas, you traded away one face of the franchise and you have the potential to get a new face of the franchise, somebody that another built from home, started their career from the very beginning in Dallas. So good for them, good for the fans. But as I said last night, that was bullshit. Like that was just like of all. I would have been happier with San Antonio getting another number one pick, to be honest.
Look, if that happened, that would have been
Yeah.
like, bro,
Everybody fine. You know what?
bro.
They lose Pop. Like, but that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. Dallas potentially could have committed some real franchise negligence, and they've been rewarded for it. Dave Stern, wherever he is, he's looking up with a smile on his face.
Super annoying. Ben, 5 words, and then your thoughts.
Lucky sons of bitches.
Only needed 4.
Just needed 4. But yeah, it's they definitely did not deserve it for what they did, with Luka. And it's not necessarily trading him, which is obviously questionable. But it is about the return. Mikal Bridges netted cost 5 first-round picks. The next day after the Luka trade, De'Aaron Fox, who plays the same position, is an excellent player, but is not of Luka's caliber. The Kings got 6 draft picks. The Mavericks got 1 for a 25-year-old superstar, voted as one of the best 5 players in the league 5 years straight. You got 1 draft pick. To me, trading him will always, to me, be questionable given his talent level, given how much he loved the city. And I don't want to hear the excuse about they didn't want to pay him the supermax. You telling me Luka wouldn't have taken like $275 million? That's still generational. That's still life-changing. Luka would have accepted. Luka never demanded the supermax, nor did I see, that he. In my opinion, Luka would have signed for less than the supermax. He loved Dallas. You could tell it in his emotions when he came back. It was always about the compensation for me. Bridges, 5 first-round picks, De'Aaron Fox. I mean, Rudy Gobert a couple years ago, I think another 5 first-round picks. Like, these guys are not Luka's quality. And you got 1 draft pick. Like, the compensation was the biggest thing for me. And then, frankly, Nico Harrison just in every press conference that he did in the last 3 months, it's like, what are you doing? What are you saying? Do you even listen to the words coming out of your mouth? Like, it's not making sense. He just came off as looking worse and worse and worse the more he talked. And
crazy like a fox.
What's that?
It's a crazy like a fox.
Exactly. Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth as a Rush Hour reference, by the way?
Yes, it is.
Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? Man, nobody understands the words coming out. But yeah, Nico Harrison just looked worse and worse as the months went on. And they, as an organization, and him himself, absolutely did not deserve this. Part of me hopes that they mess this up and somehow, don't draft Cooper Flag and trade it away or something. Part of me wishes that he makes another mistake on top of the colossal mistake he already made. And that's, I kind of low-key am maybe hoping for that. I don't think that happens, but with his history, we can't completely rule it out that he would somehow screw this up. So yeah, it's not exactly right that the Mavericks got rewarded with the number 1 pick. It's not.
They did say on ESPN.
Just say justice was not served.
Well, they did say on ESPN that they have no intentions on trading the number 1 overall pick.
That's a bunch of
and
BS
Nintendo Super Flag.
And I was gonna comment on that. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll be quick. The fact that you say that on May 13th, when the draft is like 7 to 8 weeks away, what is the point of saying that right now? You don't even know what you're doing. You don't know for 100% fact you're taking Cooper Flag. Like, stop. Like, that to me is another example of them just being stupid. Like, you don't say what you're doing 7 weeks from now right now.
If Giannis wanted to leave Milwaukee and go to Dallas, I'm almost positive it would cost them the number 1 pick.
Exactly. Yeah, it would.
So
would.
about
He wouldn't go to Dallas, but I'm just saying that if they
That's
want a
the that's
superstar, they're gonna have to give up that pick. Period.
yeah, that's the only trade that possibly makes sense depending upon compensation. But
so
that's the
about
only way you don't draft Cooper Flag is if you get Giannis.
well, for one, Dallas got lucky. I really feel like this whole draft lottery thing is absolutely rigged. I don't think there's anything there is something it's rigged. I find it very interesting that last year's draft didn't really have really a consensus number one pick, and the Wizards get the first pick. I just find that interesting. And then 2 years ago, when Victor Wembanyama was there, and then he ends up going to the Spurs. I just find it very, very interesting. This is 7 years in a row where the team with the worst record didn't get the number one overall pick.
Yeah.
7 years in a row.
Yeah.
So
I don't like the lottery at all. I wish, to be honest, it makes for great TV, great talk, but I personally don't like it. I mean, to me, the NFL does it right. Did get the what's it called? NFL does it right. NBA, who has the worst record? They pick number one.
Yeah, or Atlanta. I'm sorry, Atlanta. I'm losing track of teams, but anywho, the Wizards. Yeah, I think the Wizards got number 2, and Atlanta got number 1. But I got a theory. So before we close, I want to throw this idea out here for draft picks. I think the San Antonio Spurs are going to trade the number 2 overall, the number 14 overall, and future draft capital, and maybe some other younger player to the Bucks to get Giannis. I'm calling it.
I mean, you put Giannis, Wemby, and De'Aaron Fox. That's quite the trio right there. And Castle, if you keep Castle, which you could, given the draft picks that they have and the other players they have, they could absolutely keep Castle. So Castle, just won Rookie of the Year. Wemby, we know. De'Aaron Fox, and Giannis. That's definitely a smart move for them. And I mean,
and don't forget they would still have Chris Paul kind of to be that on-court coach and help them lead the way, because they're going to need that veteran presence. And him or not, that's veteran presence right there.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to happen. But before we wrap up, last 30 seconds each. Any NBA thoughts? Anything that kind of stands to mind as we wind down episode 153.
I'm going to piss off New York fans real quick because they're going to feel like I'm jinxing them. There is a distinct possibility that if they get out of the East, the Knicks would have home court advantage through the finals. Just the very idea of saying that sentence in 2025 about the New York Knicks is just crazy. But I'm like, they would have the best record of the teams remaining if Oklahoma City gets eliminated, if they take care of Boston, and Indiana takes care of Cleveland. They would have the best remaining record out of every team left in the playoffs. And that, who had that at the start of the season? None of us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And I would just quickly, I was going to comment on tonight's game, that OKC Denver game. I'm just hoping. I don't really have a say or preference as far as who wins. I just want a close game, because a lot of their games have not been. And Game 5 tied 2-2. Let's be honest, it's the only series that really potentially could go 7 games in this round.
It's going to.
And I just want to see. I mean, I'm going to do my best. I'm on the East Coast. I'm going to do my best to stay up for it, hopefully. But I just really want to see a close game, because a couple of those games, even though it's tied 2-2, haven't been that close. So I'm just looking forward to that game, and hopefully we get a close one.
We'll see what happens, man. We'll see. It's going to be real interesting basketball. I'm going to depart with this. I think we are not going to see a repeat champion for the next 10 to 15 years. I really think that the way that they have did this whole CBA with the second tax apron.
Second apron, yep.
They did it specifically because of Golden State and what they did.
1,000%. 1,000%.
And I think the Phoenix Suns, you see what they're doing. I think a lot of teams now are going to think twice about overpaying veterans hefty contracts. I think teams are going to put more value in the draft now, getting younger, getting more athletic, getting younger, more inexpensive options. Yep. I think we're going to start to see a shift towards a youth movement for certain teams. And the draft capital is going to be even more vital because I don't think that we valued draft compensation 5-10 years ago. Draft picks were just like, okay, whatever. Yeah. But now.
Yeah, and that good thing to valid point to bring up the Suns, because if I'm Dallas and I'm thinking about Giannis, there's your perfect example. And as great as Giannis is, Kyrie, Anthony Davis, they're all in their 30s. And we just saw the Suns so that's a very cautionary tale. And if I'm the Mavs, as many bigs as they got and wing players, you decide who you're going to trade. You draft Cooper Flag. You can't keep everyone you have because your roster would be too loaded with too many bigs, too many forwards. Like, you got to deal somebody. But I think they shouldn't overthink it. I think they should draft Cooper Flag.
And the Lakers should pick up the phone and call to see what it takes to get Derek Lively. Boom, done. There's your big man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just saying.
And Luka and him already played together.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, there's your big man problem. So,
exactly. Yep.
But all right, folks, this has been fun. It was always good chopping up. Gary Legend, thanks for joining us. Who wins? OKC, Denver, real quick.
Denver.
Ben?
Tonight or the series?
The series. Let's go with series.
Series, I got OKC.
Okay.
My answer didn't change.
Okay. I'm going to go Denver. I think Denver's going to find a way. I think so.
We got a Denver 2-1 split.
All right. I'm putting 3 pennies on that bad boy. All right. But all right, folks, until next time, it has been fun. See you later. And we're going to go take naps. Bye.
Peace out.
Peace out.